good spot. But it does mean that LGD very much lacking on the engage potential. And this would be something that'd be super interesting. Doinb has not actually been a very big Azir player in the past. Has very few games on it. But he has actually been spamming it successfully in solo queue recently. So this is something that clearly he's been working on to bring to the table. Because he's only played it 16 times in his career. 9 wins, 7 losses. And when you think about like some of his top picks, like the Rise and the Victor, that he has like 80 plus games on, you can see how little he's been willing to bring this pick out.
Yeah, and I think it's such an interesting conundrum here. I'm just going to pour one out real quick for Haichao. They draft the Galio in game 2. They didn't give it to him in game 1. I would have loved to see him on that pick. Feel like it unlocks him a little bit more. But now they're relying on a little bit more veterancy in Yaji to communicate with Shadow. That mid-jungle duo needs to be on point if you're going against a combo like you are the way that LNG drafted this time around. The Nocturne throwing a little bit of spice into the works here, Dagda.
Yeah, I will say, though, it's not exactly like you've got a mid lane that works particularly well together, though. Because honestly, when you're looking at the Nocturne, generally you see something that wants to be paired with that can either follow up and invades the Nocturne's going for, or the potential to opt in towards like dives and side lanes, because you can have these super long range dive potentials with like a Twisted Fate in that Nocturne or Galio Nocturne. And it felt like LGD kind of read LNG in the draft phase, taking that Galio and kind of going, hey, look, we can match a huge amount of this. And it means that for Tarzan, I just don't see where this Nocturne's going to be useful. It feels like no matter what you try and do, you're going to be matched by the Galio, and suddenly you're deep diving in towards a Galio who's ulting in on top of you as well. It's not like your team can follow up. Like, you have a Galio to buy space, you have the Renata to buy space, so this kind of semi-dive composition that LMG is set up for, I don't know how it's going to work out. At least they will have, like, decent range coming through from Doinb and Light to play around in the later point of the game, but it seems like a really odd decision here for Tarzan. Indeed. When we were talking about, things like maybe a JinJiao or even something like the sorry, my brain is completely farted on what the Volibear that could potentially work out for them.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of an adaptation in that regard, a little bit of a difference in play style. But as we hit the rift for the second time of the day, LGD just want to find a way to make it to 3 here in the first series of the night. LNG want to make it a quick, easy night for themselves, even though they have drafted a bit of a longer competition. It's going to take a while to get there at this point. And I'm looking to see if we get the same amount of aggression from Light and Lwandy that we got from Assum and JinJiao last time around on this matchup. It's a little bit different to go into the Aphelios and Renata, but I am highly looking at this LGD bot lane, and especially what we talked about earlier with LGD, the fact that they need to get JinJiao and Shadow out onto the map together. And I don't necessarily know if that's going to come to fruition this time around, Dagda.
I think it's a little bit easier in the matchup that you have, because the Tahm, Kench and the Senna are not exactly the most aggressive of bottom lane, so maybe we see JinJiao roaming, but I'd actually prefer if instead they started to look towards plays on this bottom side instead. Okay. You've got decent dive set up with Yeji and Shadow, ability for the bailout, so if someone does end up messing up the terror dive scenario, you've actually got the ability to keep them alive and still standing. And even though traditionally you don't want to try and dive a Senna Tahm Kench, because past level 6 they've got like the Devour and stuff, and that can make it a bit tough, I still think you've so much damage that can come through and so much CC, it should be okay for LGD to go for that play.
Yeah, it should be. And I think you have a little bit of anxiety in terms of early gameplay making for LGD. I will say they go a little ham sometimes, but I still think it could be a little bit of an advantage for them in this one. And you see Assum and JinJiao keeping up the pressure down bot lane. Not anything like the matchup we saw in game 1.
You just got to keep shoving this hard. And this is kind of the advantage of having the double range against them. That like a Senna Tahm Kench, you get to push them in. Not very much that they can really do against it. And Shadow, if you ever try to engage, you got to be so careful.
Shadow's looking for Tarzan, but Tarzan was willing to take the 1v1 because Doinb was on his way, as well as Light. Shadow going for that early aggression again, but not able to really find anything. Not able to get any camps away. I'm just going to look to meet Tarzan on the top side of the map.
A nice timing window there from Shadow, though, because he went in right as Yeji's wave had, like, reset in the mid lane. So actually finding an opportunity to go and look for that invade as Yeji had an opportunity to try and catch up. And yeah, well, I don't know if they're... yeah, looks like they are going to be. I wasn't sure if it was just for the crab, but they want more.
They get spotted out on this. I don't know if Lwandy and Light are too scared at this point. They do have a TP coming in now. Double top from Yaji. Knockups aplenty. First blood goes to Assum. Shadow flashing away from that one as it was Doinb who joined the fight, but it's nice that LGD get on the board first.
Great job from LGD, and that's exactly what we were talking about. The ability to try and play around this bottom side is going to be great, especially if Assum starts to get a lead in this lane. There's just very little that you can do as Light Knight wanting to answer, especially as you start to look towards things like the Rift Herald. When Assum gets control of this lane with JinJiao, they get full agency as to whether they want to play for a full rotate for Rift Herald. Do they want to just leave Assum on a bot lane with red and white guns to maybe look for turret plate, even potentially look for a play onto Lwandy? But I love this from LGD. Great timing window. Again, Shadow moving into the mid lane to push in that lane so Yeji can rotate. And it doesn't matter that Doinb gets here. They're already out scot-free.
Yeah, I think it's a nicely timed execution for LGD. Obviously didn't get as much as they would have wanted to, but I think you come away from that just fine. And now Yaji has been consistently on the timers here, and that's what LGD were looking for when they brought him in to sub in game 2.
I mean, he's got the Predator up again if he wants to go for it. Just trying to decide which angle of attack he wants to move in on.
Looks like Ala will get baited here. He doesn't really have much, and Gnar is coming off here now. A little bit of damage. The top flash out of. Nicely done from Ala. As the outplay comes through, he does have to burn his summoner spell.
Yeah, no flash there from G because he'd already used on the bot side. So you do get Ala out of the equation, but it's not the end of the world. Ala actually had already planned on backing at this stage. Had to reset because he'd already got Chelizi off of his first reset. Now we'll be able to TP back to lane. So he won't lose out on too much, but it does mean that it buys space for Chelizi to continue to grow this CS lead in the top side. Push in again. He still has his TP as well. So Chelizi can now start to build this advantage for himself off of his items in this top side. And this is the problem with Gnar. Blind, I'm just not the biggest fan of it. Like, there's good answers to it. The ability to try and play around it well. And LGD are doing just that.
I'm just surprised to see the Gwen actually come through, but with no big response in terms of it, because it does feel like a scary pick in the side lane, but as well as the team fight potential. When you're bringing the composition of LGD together in those objective fights, I think that's going to be really interesting to keep an eye on. But we do have first dragon on the board. We see Shadow on the bottom side going across the wall there, and we'll start up the first objective. This is how they started off last game. They got the early dragons, did not pan out for them, but they'll try to commit the same strategy this time.
Yeah, I still think that regardless, it's a pretty decent strategy. The biggest thing that we've kind of seen coming into this post-MSI patch is some of the teams started to drift over towards the dragon, stacking more so because you tend to go towards late game scaling. But I still think that Rift Herald is probably king when it comes towards getting these early leads, where you can then snowball the game completely out of control before the late game really comes into play.
Yeah, I wonder, because both times we've gotten a lot of the, opt into the late game scaling, opt into what we were setting up at the beginning of the day for both these compositions, where you have the longest average game time for LNG, and they haven't done much in this series to change that all that often. And now we're seeing them get aggressed on by LGD here, and this is some early advantage for LGD that they've been able to push up that we didn't get to see exist last game.
And I think that's really smart and speaks a lot to the, surprisingly, subbing in the mid-jungle, how they operate here, because they've been incredibly good at making sure they can push waves properly at the right times to look for plays. And as you can see here, Shadow, right? Like, he's not actually going to get a gank on Doinb here. Still has flash, still has the slide and glide as well, but what it is doing is opening up Yeji to now look for roams, so they can, well, maybe look to invade on this blue buff, support the play here, get a good reset from Yeji. Like, this is just a really good understanding of how LGD are using the fact that Shadow has a favorable jungle matchup, but also Yeji can support him when Shadow gives him a little bit of help.
And I think that's a difference that we're seeing in this game for LGD, that when we were coming into the day, we didn't highlight that much because we saw so much, at least shadow between JinJiao and Shadow himself, and the duo between the support and jungle. But now we're seeing this really work through the mid-jungle duo that I was calling out in draft, that I wanted to see come alive here, because you bring in Yaji for a reason. I think we've seen that difference making in this second game.
But if Shadow's shadowing Yaji, and Shadow, does that mean that Yaji is now the basically the Kingdom Hearts villain. Is that what we're getting?
Exactly. It is exactly that. My big question when it comes to that conversation is how many shadows can one person technically have, right? When you're looking at how many light directions you can have, there can be possibility for multiple shadows. So, you know, he's got a team of shadows. He got some, you know, shadow jiu-jitsu going on here.
I was gonna say infinite shadows, but it feels like eventually just turns into one shadow because you've got so many different lights. But here we go. LGD trying to see if they can find the play. This is a really good spot for LGD. You've still got G here, waiting, pushing mid, has that ultimate to join in.
Assum is about to have the Gravitum here, be able to set up a route if he wants to. Rift Herald getting a little bit lower. It's changing sides, though. We'll see the engage, though, coming from Ala, but it's the back line they got to watch out for. Big Galio entrance there, but it's not enough to really change just yet. But LGD have found one now onto Tarzan, and LNG have to back away. The mist helping out here for light, but it's not enough. The resets coming through huge for Shadow, and that's 3-0 for LGD.
Oh, I don't think so. I actually think LNG stole the Rift Herald there, so LGD couldn't actually pick up the Rift Herald, despite Shadow looking like he was trying to get it. But still, great fight for LGD. 3 kills on the board now, a 2,000 gold lead, and this is just really smart from LGD. They know that they can just continue to poke, just take this nice and slow. And the second Ala engages, look at Chelizi. Hops in over the wall, gets the perfect positioning for the Galio ult, and separates out the team beautifully. So it means that you've now got Ala who's able to deal with the back line, G who's able to create a ton of space for LGD there, and it means that they're able to pick up so many kills in the back of this. So no Rift Herald, obviously kind of sucks, but as you can see, it's not G's Rift Herald, it is LNG's.
Hey, at least they get something out of that one. They also only lose Tarzan in that situation. I think you can see a little bit of sustain that will come out for LNG later on, but it's up to LGD to continue to put the pressure, to pedal to the metal rather, because at this point, you know, it's looking pretty darn good. G from the mid lane has been incessant in his pressure around the map, and I think it's just LGD calling the shots nicely, something that we saw LNG do last time around.
I'm gonna have to see if they can keep this up, because they have had good games like this in the early stages, but LGD's mid game has kind of come back to fault them. And again, this is a composition that doesn't really have tools to push, I was going to say push their advantages when it gets towards like team fighting and stuff like that. Because realistically, as you said, LNG outrange LGD. They don't have great engage tools. The reason that they were able to win that last fight was because Ala went in aggressive, right? But I think if LNG take these team fights slow and allow Light and Doinb to get the poke, LNG should be able to bring this back.
Yeah, and they are okay. I would say you wouldn't want to be given over this much of a lead, 2,000 early on, but they're fine, right? They've drafted the Senna, Tahm Kench. They've drafted the Azir for Doinb. They've got a little bit of that scaling factor for them looking towards the later parts of the game. But again, we also said at the beginning of this series in totality that there is a propensity to snowball in some occasions. And I think 3 kills is nowhere near a snowball, but LGD would like to get more of a grasp on this game.
And I mean, the best way to do that is to continue to try and put pressure on this bottom side. But as I said, that G just trying to cover Tarzan. He's looking for the invades and any sort of maybe potential dive that might be going up towards that top side. But I think they're going to be fine. I feel like we're going to see Shadow visit mid lane once more here, try and push in mid, and again start to run down bot side. Because even look at the vision control that's been set up by LGD on this bot side. Like 2 pink wards in river and just in that curved brush as well at the back of blue. They've got deep vision as well to spot for when camps and bot side are respawning. Like, it feels like a no-brainer for LGD to try and look for these plays and punish the fact you've already got 3 turret plates taken on the bottom side.
And I love to see that Doinb sitting at the top of the gold chart there, right? You need to get a little bit more. He has the first strike as well to get a little bit more of that extra gold, but you're looking for these item completions for LNG to really have any say in the next objectives, right? Because you don't necessarily want to let LGD continue to stack up these dragons the way they did in Game 1. What worked out for LNG in Game 1 was to come in as the Dragon Soul dragons were spawning and force the hand of LGD around those fights. So I'm looking to see if we get a little bit more of that in this one. Shadow being a little bit aggressive does take over the blue buff of Tarzan. So Tarzan a little bit worse for wear in that jungle matchup. Does have the mythic completed now, though. First on the board.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a case of having the reset come through
No.
Shadow.
No.
This is where we're looking for the dive. Here's the dive. We're going for it, Mazel.
We're going for it again. 13.5 minutes in. They just want to get all of the plates here. They're doing a wonderful job to try to do so. Moonlight Vigil comes out just to get some AoE there. They can't get the plates. They got about 25 seconds to get the rest of that tower. But Minion Wave will be coming in a little bit slower than that. As the,
it's a false start, Mazel.
It's
back
close.
to the diving board.
Oh, they left it. No, it's doomed.
But yeah, at the LGD, you can see Yeji moving down towards that bottom side. Shadow was in a position, but again, it's just kind of trying to punish the fact that LGD have so much control and so much push with this double range lane. So Yeji now just going to be able to catch this wave. We've passed the 14-minute mark, so as you can see, the Unleashed Teleport's going to be playing a factor now. And maybe, just maybe, that means Ala can try and look for some sort of play onto the bottom side if they can get like deep vision set up here for LNG, because you know LGD are going to be putting pressure onto this bot lane turret. So I'd love to see Lwandy or Light try and get some sort of ward in behind LGD. So as they push up, Ala can try and TP in behind them, especially with Chelizi not having TP available.
Before we get to like the big monumental fights, the big game deciding situations here, I want to check in as we have been doing so far in the series so far in the Assum and Light conversation, because Light on the Senna this time around, what you were talking about in game one was, it's a different ball game when you're an ADC. You have to take up this support Senna and be a supportive member of the team. How do you feel like Light's doing so far? Do you feel like he's that veterancy showing through here for Light compared to Assum?
I think it's kind of hard for Light in these early stages because you are consistently getting pushed in, and because you've got Yeji and Shadow who are looking for dives, you're kind of held to this bottom lane, so it's much more difficult for Light to try and move out, get vision control, like link up with Tarzan in the same boat. So it'll be more when we get to the mid game how that vision control starts to look. But you can see LGD starting up the Rift Herald, and Light correctly moving down here with Tarzan and Lwandy to see if they can actually get this turret plate, maybe fall back for the dragon as well, as LGD commit for this tower.
They should be able to grab this one. Yeah, G will back away. It'll be the trade. Objective for objective, but first tower for LNG on the bottom side, meaning that in about 40 seconds, not a lot of pressure going to be there for LGD. They're going to have to find some ground here if they want to get that sole point for themselves. They could also just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, you have Rift Herald here, 30 seconds to the Dragon. With third Dragon potential here for LGD, I imagine they're going to try and use that Rift Herald mid here as LNG are on the resets. Yeji now in a position to start to rotate over and keep them covered if any sort of funny business happens here. But, I mean, a bit of a slow one from LGD where, again, this is what we're talking about mid-game. Not really certain what they're supposed to be doing.
And to me, feels like we're looking at like a mini timer. I wouldn't say it's like a doom clock timer, but I am seeing some iterations from LG that mean they feel pretty confident in this kind of situation. LGD just trying to push up the mid lane, get ready for this dragon. LNG don't want to let that happen. We got Ala taking the top side tower. TP is available. Mega Gnar just popped, but it looks like LNG will let this one go. Oh, nope, never mind. They're just a little bit late. They just didn't get the memo yet, as now they're coming in. Paranoia used. They're into the pit here. They can't get... this is absolute chaos, but who's going to get the dragon? It's taken by Light. He gets the first one. Big Moonlight Vigil. Hostile takeover is not going to connect. LGD get the dragon stolen from underneath their nose.
LNG playing the map out so much better. They remembered that Ala has that TP advantage that we talked about, so he gets the top tier 1, so 2 towers for 0 in LNG's favor. He then just about hits the Mega Gnar that he needs as he TPs in, and great call from Tarzan. He actually goes on towards Yeji, which makes it very hard for LGD to use this Galio ult offensively, so LNG just playing that so much smarter.
That's a real big pickup, at least not in terms of kills. They have taken the lead, and they have taken a confident advantage in terms of getting that objective. Stopping the stacking for LGD puts another 5 minutes on that Cloud Soul for them. And I think that'll be something LNG definitely will be happy to have, at least in their back pocket at this point. Now they're playing aggressive still, trying to whittle down this mid lane.
Yeah, watch here. So LGD don't really set themselves up properly to try and make this dragon work. You've got Assum and... Assum completely separated on the back of the pit. You have Yeji who's been engaged on the bottom side, so now he can't go in. But look at the damage Chelizi gets off. I feel like if you actually get the JinJiao ult out sooner here, and you get the Galio ult in on top, this actually could have been a one fight for
Yeah.
LGD, but just so late on the final two ultimates, I think they were surprised by how much damage Chelizi churned out, and it meant that they kind of panicked and threw out everything else, and it was just a bit late off the start of the line.
Jesus, those damage numbers, man. That needlework did so much work. Oh, yeah, G gets scooped up into the tower in mid lane. Gets rooted up as well. Dawning Shadow across, but the shield is enough to save the day today. An LGD getaway surviving yet another close call in the mid game.
It does give LNG presence in this mid lane, though, as Ala pushes in on top side. So they should be able to crash this wave top in towards the turret. Then you have to be careful here that Ala doesn't sweep around, because G will try and match this turret top. So he may try and make a play mid here.
Might be looking for it. Almost stacked up to the Gnar as well. They do still have a full health tower here. Here comes Allah. He wants to get stacked up. He knows that he can get the double stun into the wall, but takes a lot of damage before he can turn.
Yeah, LGD all dissipating from the mid lane. Should be able to get this push in mid. Rift Herald is going to be placed in the jungle, but here's the TP.
Gravitum, Moonlight Vigil, they get the root down. They're trying to follow it up. The resets for Shadow will come through, and now on the backside, Chelizi, he's getting Tarzan down very low. The root going to connect onto 2 here, but LNG bite off a little bit more than they could chew, and Lwandy bites the dust again.
Yeah, and trying to look at where the Rift Herald is. Does get the charge off in that mid lane as LGD now start to wrap back up. And again, G held onto that ultimate,
What
so
are you
the
still
dive
doing
potential's
here,
still
LNG?
there.
Get out of here. You don't want to be here. The tower does eventually fall. It was a close call. I thought LGD might close the pincer trap there. They decide not to do so. Shadow's still playing pretty aggressive onto Allah. But LGD come out with more map control for themselves. LNG want to look for it, though. They're TPing. They got Lwandy on the back here. They're going for the pull trigger here, and they have the paranoia. He's all by himself, but here comes the rest of the team. They will leave him out to dry, though. G goes down, and LNG, for the first time in 20 minutes, get a kill.
And LNG keep finding G separated from the squad, so it means that you don't ever get that backup coming through with that massive Galio to buy space, and LGD then can't really follow up because a lot of their composition revolves around G buying space for Assum, for JinJiao, and setting up for Chelizi and Shadow to go in. So with that main setup gone, it makes these fights so much easier for LNG. So LNG going to back up now, go to these side lanes, push them out, and now we've got Dragon spawning in 50 seconds. Both teams going to be looking for it.
Again, in this situation, would be sole point for LGD. They've been working on stacking those dragons in both games so far, and so far LNG has stopped them. But we'll see if they can get that one extra, get that pressure around the map, as you do see Tarzan resetting at this point. We're getting the TP in a mid lane. The priority in mid has never been more important. I guess it wouldn't be as big of a deal in terms of this one dragon meaning that much, but for LGD, it does feel like a big deal. It feels like there's a lot riding on the momentum that comes with this objective.
Shadow, try to see if you can spot Lwandy. They're trying to see if they can buy time for Chelizi to get onto this bot lane turret. Chelizi wants to enter in a flank position, because as we've seen every time LGD have had a successful fight, it's Chelizi setting up for G to become that engage tool. So Chelizi, though, moving back to wrap around means that he won't actually have as good of a flank position as LNG start up the dragon, spotted by LGD.
I think LGD are a bit caught in a pickle here. They were looking to set up around the dragon. They don't get the dragon. They move towards the Baron. Now they started up, but you've got Chelizi trying to run up here now. LNG are on their way. This is a very, very tough touch-and-go type situation for LGD. They're committing here. They're staying in the pit. Shadow's getting his health bar drained down by the Baron, and here comes LNG now.
G's waiting on the wings, though.
There we go, the engage, the taunt. Lwandy is caught out. Needlework is coming through here, but they can't get Lwandy. He's too tanky. Look at Allah. They knew he was going for the 5-man Gnar ulti. They will not let it happen, but the split has caused some problems for LGD. JinJiao goes down, and LNG find purchase on the fight.
LGD just needs to be that little bit more patient, wait for more members of LNG to take the bait. Instead, LNG find a pick. They'll find this tower in the mid lane, and again we're watching LGD's mid game fall apart with such a good start in the early stages.
I will say though, I know it ended up in getting JinJiao killed. Good decision not to all go into that choke. They were literally all about to walk into a 5-man Allah ulti, and they decide at the last second to split apart. And yes, it ends up in JinJiao getting caught out, but I think it's a huge piece for LGD to stay in this game.
Yeah, I mean here, the fact that you're engaging onto Lwandy, the farming Tahm Kench, he's far too tanky to really deal with. Honestly, the tankiest member on the LNG squad. You just need to wait that little bit longer and see if you can get onto some of the key carries on LNG. But unfortunately, not going to be the case for LGD. And because you're all running towards topside, it leaves the mid lane exposed for LNG to take. So LNG again, just finding nice engages, finding the opportunities to like kind of bait.
Oh, that's... Nope, nobody look. You didn't see anything. We're going to keep talking about the LPL because it's a great, wonderful league. And yep, tower goes down to the bot lane for LGD. That is, yeah, I guess I can't really gloss over. That's huge. Like, that is a very unfortunate situation because this flash is such an important part to the engage setup for the Viego. And at this point, that's the engage you're looking at.
Yeah. Well,
it is, you know, in the immortal words of I don't know who, it's just the saying I like to say, it is what it is, and it do be what it do be. And now we're here into this game where LGD had a lead. They had strength, but LNG, again, when it comes to the mid game, the decision-making, just too darn good. And now LNG feel like they have a lot of control, but Ala might be caught in the side lane here. Chelizi does start off the fight. Gnar nowhere to be seen. They're double TPing for this. Ala, he gets devoured immediately. Paranoia onto Yaji, and yet again we find ourselves in a position where Yaji is getting caught out. Here comes the rest of LGD. Bailout is not enough, and Yaji will fall. Doinb with the Emperor's Divide. The Shuriba Shuffle going the opposite way. Moonlight Vigil from Assum helps to back off LNG, but it's a chaotic series of fights here in the bottom lane.
I mean, for LGD, we kind of said they need to find ways to engage, but they just haven't been able to get it, and yeah, G's getting caught out every time. Ala, they're pushing in on this top side, making sure that he's able to get in a good position. Unfortunately, because he turned Mega, won't be able to get this top lane turret, but will still steal away a ton on this top side when it comes towards camps. And LNG slowly but surely getting themselves in the right position. And again, this late game for LNG starting to prove too much for LGD.
That is the tragic situation in this whole thing. It's not one thing, Dagda. It's not like there's not an outright standout. It's like, yes, this is where LGD keep messing up in the mid game. It's a series of things, and it's a series of things that it just feels like they can't come back from. That LNG just have this inherent advantage in this game.
Yeah, I mean, gotta say though, Doinb a little bit unfortunate there.
Little bit.
The wrong way in the stream and shuffle. We did say he doesn't play a lot of Azir. You kind of got to see it there. But we'll have to see if it'll be a little bit stronger here coming into the two Cloud Dragons for LNG, a potential third for both squads here. We'll have to see if LGD will be able to contest.
Look at the flank. They've got it. Yaji is over here on the side. Nobody knows he's there. He'll come around the corner. Everfrost there. Devour from Lwandy is buying so much time. Emperor's Divide is up again, and LNG survive the entire commit from LGD, and now they're chasing him down because Ala wants to chase him with the Gnar, but they can't get the distance on him. LGD have to run for the hills, and that just feels real bad, man.
And this is the problem. They had it. Oh, Ala.
He really
no
wants
flash
to force
available,
that
but
ulti. He's like, I got the button.
You had the engage from LGD with Chelizi providing those flanks. You can see how well it worked with Yaji then having a tool to actually assist in him getting that ultimate off. Then the taunt, Everfrost, knock up with the Justice Punch.
No way.
That was a much better decision. This may not be the best decision either.
Oh no, Paranoia is available. Shadow is already almost dead. He's gonna have to early smite or he needs to get out of the pit. Paranoia is coming in and it's still taken by Shadow. The health bars are not there though. Tarzan is almost dead already at LGD. They found this miraculous fight on top of the Baron, but Shadow needs to get out of dodge here. Root will connect onto Yaji. Assum is caught out here. The rest of LNG trying to chase him down. Heroic Entrance will come through. Knock up there, but Yaji might have doomed himself. The rest of LGD on the side trying to deal with Lwandy. The Root connects onto Assum yet again. They found one. They found two. And LNG even up the kills. And they even up this game in terms of them still dominating. Because Chelizi caught out. He's trying to help. His damage numbers will look good. But that's a double kill for Ala. And LNG come out on top yet again.
And just LGD throwing the Hail Mary and look caught, but fumbled right at the finish line. And now LGD gonna lose out on another dragon. But you'll see it here. Light providing so much damage over the wall, and this is where you really needed to just engage as soon as possible. You're just taking too much damage from the long range in LNG, and even though LGD do get the dragon, like, and you start off this fight with a kill onto Tarzan, LNG just have too much as Doinb shows up as well. And again, no real engage set up with nobody going forward for Yeji. No way to really buy space. So I feel like here, Yeji just needed to ult, buy space for LGD to escape and sacrifice himself. But because he waited so long to actually use this ultimate, LNG were swarming all over LGD and pick up so many kills that they really didn't need to get.
Can I just say that Light has been landing these routes like it's nobody's business? Like, it is incredible. And most of the time, not really doing much, right? Like, it's just a one-off here. Somebody has to use the ability to go somewhere else. But he has been so integral in setting up a lot of these fights. We saw the dragon in the picture get taken. Meanwhile, Shadow in some trouble here against Allah. He gets the bailout. He survived. No, the devour from Lwandy. Donic Shadow from Light gets the kill onto Shadow himself. Allah gets over the wall, but Lwandy might be a little bit fried here. He's going to get Moonlight Vigil to death, and Assum gets on the board. But bot lane, it is Destruction Town.
Yeah, second tower on that bottom side now taken. Mid is already gone. And with 3 dragons for LNG, it's looking likely that they're going to be able to pick up a 4th in 4 minutes' time. Allah finds company, though.
That's a Gale Force forward with the Gravitum. They're trying to chase him down. The needlework is finally finished here, as Allah about to have his Mega Gnar. This is some trouble here for Chelizi. I would say, Assum, you need to get back here, buddy. Oh. You need to get back here to help your top later. Allah will find out the short end of the stick here as he gets chased down by JinJiao, who gets the 1,000 gold. That is a bit unfortunate as the shutdown goes over to the support.
Yeah, I mean, LNG are still pushing everywhere, though. Tarzan is in mid. Shadow will be able to deny the mid lane inhibitor turret, but look at the bot side. TP now coming in. That's going to be definitely bot gone, and they just rotate towards mid anyway with the next waves pushing in. So LNG picking up so much for these plays.
It's really incredible how quickly they can turn it on its head. They feel the aggression, and they buy into it wholeheartedly. An inhib looking to go down for LGD, but they put on the defense here. They've got a lot of bodies, and LNG don't want to overextend. They might have done just that. Shadow gets the engage. The tower goes up, though, and LGD back away.
I mean, at least the good news for LGD is that both inhibitors stay standing, so there won't be any super minion pressure on this bottom side when the likes of Baron and that Dragon are up in 2 minutes' time. So should make it a little bit easier to hold on to, but honestly, I think as LNG, just 5-man stack towards this mid lane, push it down, you can rotate over towards the inhibitor there, and honestly, there's not very much that LGD could do unless they're able to find some sort of flank position with Chelizi to actually gain entrance to the fight.
I think that's the hardest part, though, is the entrances into the fight at this point. We do have 3 dragons stacked up here, the Soul Dragons for LNG. We're going to take a look at the top lane skerfuffle that we got.
Yeah, I mean, this is just Shadow trying to see if he can get anything while this bot side's being pushed in, but I don't think he expected to find Allah. Means that for this play, though, they lose so much because they end up trying to fight their way out against the top laner of LNG. LGD, though, we come back to live. Pushing in mid, you've got a decent flank for Yeji. Again, though, I think this needs to be Chelizi on the flank.
Yeah, I just have wondered the positioning a lot of the times for LGD because it does seem like if they can find it, it looks good. But if it's not set up properly for them, it all falls apart. And Chelizi has had some great backline engages, some great heroic entrances layered on top for Yeji. But at this point, again, it's few and far between finding those entrances to the fight. And now LNG have so much pressure on the map that it's even harder.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're talking about, though, right? 5-manning down this mid lane as...
Yeah, this is a bit rough. Chelizi is all tanking it up here, though. Paranoia comes through. Dawning Shadow is not enough to save Lwandy. And the resets start coming through for Shadow. A little bit stuck. The Abyssal Dive comes through. He has to flash away, or not flash, rather. And then we'll see that Shadow able to dip, dive, duck, and dodge, but keeps LNG from pushing in their base.
And now 30 seconds until Lwandy is up. Baron is available at the same time, but Lwandy doesn't have TP, so maybe some room here for LGD to try and make something happen, but it is only a tank down. They still have to be careful of how much damage is on LNG's side, as Doinb says, "No, Allah, you go that way. I'm getting the wave."
Yeah, this is my wave at this point. Shadow is still looking for it, though. They're trying to catch out Light like they caught out Assum last time, but Light too quick on the trigger pull of the flash.
flash down for light is going to be massive. And again, you don't have the support of Lwandy, so if LGD just turn and try and burst down Baron, that could be the play. Force LNG to try and play into them and find a flank, but they don't have the mid control. They don't feel comfortable going for it, and it will buy time for Lwandy to come out of base and set up again for this 5-man stack. So LNG going to be on almost full power, but flash is gone on both Doinb and Light. Maybe, just maybe, there's a window LGD can find the engage they need.
Oh, the TP. They're coming in behind. Yeah, G has found an incredible flank. They have gotten it, but Allah is Gnar. He does have the ulti as well. He needs to use it, but the Devourer comes through here, and LNG reset the situation of the fight. They bring Doinb around the corner. He has the Shurima Shuffle, the combo available. One game-changing play could make the difference here. A Shadow caught out a little bit. A lot of damage returned there. You get the back completed for Allah, who has TP and comes right back to the fight. This is LGD's plan. They want to pull away the attention from the Dragon, and they're pulling it into the fight. Allah was trying to get Gnar up, but Doinb is already dead, and LGD turned right back onto the Baron.
LNG gonna give up the Baron now in favor of the Cloud Dragon on the bottom side. Maybe Tarzan looks for a steal though, but with no vision in the pit, looks like it's going to be a full retreat from LNG. Yeah, G with the Everfrost to pick the mid laner of LNG and keep LGD alive.
What an incredible turn of events. They're going to push into the top lane as well. Dragon Soul goes to LNG. 4 Cloud Dragons back all the way up. And now they've got to get back to defend because they could lose their inhib here in the top side as everybody from LGD is on their way this way, except for Yaji, who has the heroic entrance if he needs to join the fight.
Yeah. Still LGD pushing in the top side. Assum destroying this turret like it's absolutely nothing. Now LNG, can they actually find the fight they want? Doombi's up in 3 seconds.
Are they just trying to snowball this at this point? I mean, he could just put a lot of pressure at this top side of the map right now as the inhib does fall. A lot committed for it, but LGD find purchase on the map themselves where they take the gold lead for the first time in what feels like forever.
It's going to be so much harder now for LGD to find that engage again, because the next time these objectives are up, you'll have flash for Doinb, flash for Light. That was kind of like the perfect combination for LGD, where Lwandy had already used his Devour, and you didn't have flashes on key carries, but unfortunately for LGD, I don't think it's enough for them to have this Baron and try and push forward. Maybe they can do some good work on getting damage onto these outer turrets, but you're not really going to crack any more inhibitors off of this simply because of the range advantage that LNG have and the wave clear that they're able to bring to the table. And as you say, LGD, they were maybe looking to try and end there, but unfortunately knew they weren't able to. So they have to go back to the drawing board and again find some way to get on towards Light and Doom.
Yeah, at this point, it seems like both teams are fine buying their time. LNG, opting into the fact they feel more confident in these late game decisions, but it is LGD who have been able to find entrances in this game. That's something we said was super hard for them to find in the first place, but they find the Baron. They force the fight on LNG. The LNG aren't able to execute their composition in the way that Doinb gets caught out. And I think those are the kinds of moments that make the difference, right? Like, it doesn't matter, names off, gameplay off, like, the items matter to some extent, but it's also about your execution, your momentum in terms of these fights. I think LGD have found a little bit of something to walk off of as they take another tower in the bottom lane, and they're busting down the defenses of LNG.
Yeah, Chelizi trying to push in mid, so LGD trying to spread the love here. Big wave on this bottom side, but that's what we're talking about, right? The amount of wave clear Doinb and Light can offer here makes it really hard to keep these creeps alive. Lwandy now stepping up onto Chelizi to get him off this turret. Will the tower down? One more shot. Should do it. There we go. So at least you're still getting a nice job here done for LGD with now just 2 inhibitor turrets in your way, but you've only got a little bit of time left on this Baron.
Only a little bit of time, about 10 seconds left, and LGD realized they'll be backing out now, as I'm sure they were looking for one last little push in the mid lane. Won't be able to do so as the Baron does fall. Nice little Baron power play for LGD this far into the game. As we're just at that 38-minute mark, it's going to be a little while till we get objectives. But the thing is, for these next objectives, we were talking about the timings for the flashes coming up for a lot of members, but it's also the timing of both objectives, right? You're going to have Elder Dragon and Baron buff on the table within 10 seconds of each other. And I think that either team is going to have to decide if they want to trade or if they want to commit to the fight. And we've seen the back and forth nature of some of the Baron fights that have not necessarily gone LNG's way.
And the thing is, you have a ton of late game scaling with LGD, with Chelizi and Assum, but it's about trying to find ways for these guys to get into the fights. And if not, like, it's so much easier for Doinb to just sit there, full build now, poke away, not really have any sort of issues with the needing the setup to actually get his damage down. He's just fine to just kind of keep moving these soldiers around. It's LGD who have to find creative flanks for Yeji.
Yeah.
Maybe Chelizi, especially with Ghost, running into the backline and then delivering Yeji in. It's much more difficult for LGD to find ways to enable Chelizi and Assum than it is for LNG to enable their card.
Yeah, and I think that's something crazy. Is I do want to go back, as we were talking about, the lead that Doinb has had, but checking in on item differences, right? You do have 4 items now completed with a stopwatch in pocket for Assum. Huge playmaking opportunities coming off that Aphelios now. The full build for Doinb, as you said. The strength that we're starting to see as also Ala is full build now. And it's crazy to think that LNG are this far ahead in terms of their items and in terms of their builds, but it is not making that big of a difference in the fights. It's all about those catch-out moments as Tarzan completes the force of nature.
And that's why I think LGD are trying to spread out the map here. They already have super minions pushing in that top side. Chelizi is incredibly strong. Like, no one can deal with Chelizi in a 1v1 right now on LNG side. So that's why they're trying to see if Chelizi and the tempo advantage they picked up from Baron can maybe push back LNG, allow them to establish vision control. But again, very little vision actually being set up by LGD in LNG side of the map. And when you've got Elder up in 50 seconds, Baron up in 40 seconds, you need to have that control of the map. But right now, defensive lines of wards for LNG is just so much stronger.
And we got to talk about a little bit before this next fight kicks off, as we're under that 30-second mark for the Baron. The next fight decides the game. If one team gets wiped, that's TPs into the base, that's game over. So these next moments are super crucial in setting up for these objectives, because you've got 2 big bad boys on the Rift in the Elder and the Baron.
Ala has to go to the top side though, because of the massive wave that's there. Maybe this is the moment where LGD can find that flank before the TP comes in. Azir turret established though in the mid lane makes it very hard for LGD to get control over mid lane to start to dip over towards both of these objectives. Elder Dragon will definitely be the main focus of both squads, and you can see LGD and LNG are already here as Ala, dealing with that top wave, is now grouping with his squad.
Yeah, he ran down immediately. Gnar did just fall off, so gonna need a little bit of time to recharge on that one. See if he does have the time to spare, though, as Tarzan Shadow the first to go to blows before this 5v5 kicks off, Dagda.
Yeah, Chelizi and Yeji trying to see if they can find the flank. LNG know that he's there, but don't know exactly how to deal with him. Tarzan basically going to match here. Yeah, they're trying to match because Tarzan knows he can also ult into the fight if something goes awry, but Dragon resetting, it's so tense here.
It's so tense. The set up, though, Chelizi, and you have Yeji on the side. They get the LNG backline here. They've got the resets for Shadow, but they get taken down one by one here. Look at the fight, and Tarzan on the back just gets blown up by Assum. Chelizi is against Ala. He goes down. This is such a back-and-forth fight. The Elder Dragon, it's going to go to LGD, and LNG back away immediately.
Both junglers fall as the dragon goes, but oh, Doinb trying to see if he can use this range here. They know that they still have an advantage when it comes towards how much damage they can do from afar. Light has rapid fire, Doomby's got a ton of range, and LNG, they just say, hey, look, they actually can't fight us here. We've got turn if needs be, so they're gonna go for the Baron, and they will rip through this thing.
Shadow is nowhere nearby. He went back to base to reset, and there goes the Baron for LNG. We said what will happen when both big bad boys get on the Rift, and well, we trade them back and forth.
And the big thing here as well, Elder Dragon doesn't last as long. You can see that you've got a little bit of a window here where the Baron buff is up, but LGD don't have that Elder. So at the moment, still going to see this game drag out a little bit longer. It feels like, honestly, we might still wait for the reset on both these two neutral objectives. But watch here, Tarzan matching Yeji and Chelizi. But again, because LNG end up engaging on Yeji, he doesn't get the ultimate off. Shadow doesn't really have a delivery service to buy space in this fight. Do you see Yeji gets locked up? He goes into Zhonya's, and that's when Ala gets this big Gnar ult into the wall. All 3 members of the LNG front line. So Tarzan tries to go into the back to buy space then, so LNG can deal with the front line of LGD, but it means that Tarzan, despite the GA, ends up getting caught out. Shadow managed to survive between the bailout and the GA, and now we're back to live with LGD pushing in here, trying to use the fact they've got that Elder buff for another 50 seconds, but it's so hard pushing against barred up creeps, and the fact that LNG, once this Elder buff goes in 40 seconds, will instantly turn to the aggressor.
I will say though, talking about instances and being instant, Assum will instantly delete people if he gets onto you. This AoE, the damage that's coming out from the full build of Aphelios, they are pushing in this mid lane. They get the tower. They're looking at the inhib now. This will be the first inhib unlocked for LGD. They need to be careful getting out of it though, because LNG are looking to pounce if they get mispositioned at all.
LGD would like to try and get this top inhibitor as well, but it's not going to be the case. As we said, 10 seconds now on the Elder buff, so LGD will back away knowing that now LNG get to turn to be the hunters. LNG, though, they are struggling to close this game out. We talked about LNG having a good amount of control in the early stages of this game, the ability to try and poke and use their range, but they haven't been able to get as easy control as they would like. Now, though, with 50 seconds in the Baron, they have basically one wave here and a dream to try and crack open the inhibitors on the bottom side for our mid side for LGD, but you can see there just isn't enough to go against them. So I think we're back to stalemate. I think we're back to waiting for these neutral objectives.
Don't tell me we're going to get I'm going to be a part of the next longest game in the summer split. I was already a part of the first one. Hopefully we don't get to the 50-minute mark at this point, but it's looking like it could be a possibility as Baron will be falling off in about 20 seconds. LNG not confident enough to push up in that moment, and we'll just get that stalemate that we love so much in the LPL. 45 minutes in. It's still crazy to me, though, because at any instant, this game can end. Like, somebody gets caught out, somebody laps focus for 1 second in a fight, the game's over.
Yeah, the thing is, though, there's still growing room on LNG's side.
There is.
Like, you're looking at Light, who doesn't have his build fully complete yet. This is an AD carry that definitely going to have time to ramp up, just completing the GA there. Even if this game starts to drag on longer, Light can actually start to transition over towards, like, a Kraken Slayer build, this kind of stuff. Even the Soul's going to continue to come through, which means that Light is going to continue to scale. So this is where you've got to kind of be careful as LGD, because there is that infinite scaling that can come into play now with the Senna, the longer this game goes. Because 45 minutes in, and we're still waiting for these objectives.
We're still waiting. I will say 45 minutes in, it feels bad that G's still on a full item missing in his build. But you know what? It's okay, because he's been there for the rest of the team every single time, and it's all about the setup for LGD. We've seen time and time again, they get the flanks. They have found it almost every time, even if it's a little bit wonky sometimes. All they need is Chelizi to get back there and for the heroic entrance to come down.
LNG trying to get control over mid lane. LGD trying to establish themselves around the Baron, which is going to be the second objective spawn. Yeah.
Assum, though, does so much damage, and he's on the red-blue. G yet again with the flank. Here comes the taunt. It doesn't really land. The Everfrost comes out, but look, Chelizi is on the flank there. They've already gotten the one. Again, the reset's coming through. Abyssal dive now for Shadow, but LGD know where they need to strike, and it's to the heart of LNG. Could we be going the distance here, Dagda? 46 minutes, 45 seconds in. LGD are looking for the death rattle against LNG.
Yeah, Doinb doesn't have ult, but still has a ton of damage. That tower
stopped.
is gone.
The TP got stopped. Tarzan almost down. Dawning Shadow not going to do much. Tarzan's GA will be popped. The focus is on the Nexus, and we're going the distance. LGD proves striking first is not needed.
It took a long while. You can see Shadow looking exhausted as he leaves the LGD training room. But my God, that's got to be hard for LNG. After having control of the early stages, after trying to find those fights, just one pick again on towards the LNG side, and LGD close it out.
In a way that only can be done by LGD. I think it's crazy the ups and downs we saw in that game. The fact that we were starting to see the LNG that we know can be dominant in the mid game, that can take over the game once those decisions start mattering a little bit more. But LGD every time just found a little bit of way in, found a little entrance into the armor of LNG, found the Baron, found a lot of strength, and then just pushed it up the middle to win the game. I think for LGD, this is a big win, because when we were coming into the day, we were saying, there should be a monumental difference between both these two teams, and today LGD showed there's not that big of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, it took them a little bit of time to figure out how they wanted to try and make this composition work, but I mean, consistently being able to find these picks onto Lwandy on the Tahm Kench, making sure that then that safety tool for the likes of Doinb and the Senna were just off the board. And I don't know, it just felt like LNG honestly should have been able to take this kind of from their mid-game positioning, right? They had a good advantage, they had good dragon, didn't have good dragon setup in the early game, which again, kind of came back to bite them as we got to the later portion of the game. But realistically, like, a strong front-to-back fight should have sealed the deal for LGD, but it never really got together for LNG. They were always just taking that step too far forward that allowed LGD to find the pick.
And that's the conversation that has been around and surrounding LNG all season long. It's, when do you prove yourself? When do you show that this team is that next step above? Well, you have moments like this that knock it right back down to the beginning of the question. What happened to LNG in this situation? And I think it's just getting caught into the playstyle that LGD brought to the table.
Jeez, look at that goal graph.
Yeah,
that's absolutely
insane.
absurd. And this is the thing, LNG still won with the goal difference in their favor, right? Like, LNG, lost with the goal difference in their favor. But LGD, like, I think they eventually figured out how they needed to make this work with, like, Chelizi finding moments, Assum coming through, and as we said, like, once you close the gap here for LGD, like, Chelizi and Assum were going to be able to do a ton of work. It was about trying to, like, keep them at bay, keep them back, and make sure that LNG could find some poke and some damage initially. But every single time, you end up with Lwandy getting caught, which meant that LGD were able to find these moments to continue pushing back LNG, and then use these super strong short-range carries that they had.
Yeah, you look at some of the stats coming across, you see Doinb trying his darndest there, 40%